The thinking behind these is that I like to be really proactive, and I like to think, what could, what is something that would be just a little tweak that you could do at home that would really have a pretty large payoff at school? And it could be as simple as making a transition go smoother. A transition meaning the transition from PE back into the homeroom, or just when they're hungry, being sure that they're able to get right to that lunch. So let me share with you a couple of these kind of more logistical hacks that I think you could definitely do at home. So this first one, I chose a Puma shoe because we are, as my husband would say, a Puma family. And I thought those little Hello Kitty ones are so cute. So with shoes, my tip for you is, no matter what shoe they wear, whether it has laces, whether it has Velcro, whether it's a hybrid lace Velcro shoe, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a slip-on, just as long as your child can be independent, it will help make their day at school go so much more smoothly. Sometimes children wear shoes that they cannot do by themselves. And this is frustrating for them because they want to be able to do things by themselves, and they want to be independent. So just making sure whatever shoe it is, just making sure they are able to take it on or take it off, put it back on all by themselves. If the laces come untied, can they retie them? I have a kindergartner this year in my class who is an expert at tying her shoelaces, because I saw her shoes and thought, oh, I wonder if she can tie those. And she can. It is incredible. She should be hosting a clinic actually of how to tie shoes, because she's really good at it. So this may sound like a little thing, but it really does make such a huge difference. And again, this is a proactive move because so many falls happen simply because the laces are undone. So that is my hack number one for you. Make sure your child is independent with their shoes, no matter what they are. The next one is about independence as well. Now, I love, as Catherine will tell you, I love a charcuterie board just as much as anyone else. And this particular one that we have right here is impossible to open. It is so hard to open. It is hard for me to open it. And that makes it really tricky at lunchtime sometimes. Let me show you another couple of examples here. One of these things is not like the other. Do you know which one it is? I'll give you a little think time here. I showed this to my husband and he goes, well, obviously it's the Capri Sun. And I said, no, it's not the Capri Sun. It's the one on the right. This one right here is the only one that kids can independently open. And it's because of that brilliant, I call it a helicopter twist off cap, because it looks like the helicopter blades on top. They can do that. They can open that no problem. The Capri Sun, or those Honest drinks it's shaped just like a Capri Sun, or these applesauce pouches with these lids. I'm sure there's a really important freshness feature, behind all of this, and the same with the Lunchables and everything, but it's really hard for the kids to open. And so my idea is that at home, when your child is not hungry and when they're not in the heat of the moment of being frustrated, they can learn how to open all of these things. The other thing is, we have learned as kindergarten teachers in a pandemic that they are all capable of opening all of these things. You just have to teach them. We've been last year, especially when, the pandemic was still kind of fresh and we were all still learning everything. We were trying to be very hands-off with their lunch, and we wanted them to be able, we didn't want to touch what they were going to be eating. And we would wear gloves, all these things when we're helping them. And we learned pretty quickly that actually they could learn to open everything by themselves. They just needed the practice. And unfortunately, during lunch or during snack, when they're hungry, isn't the ideal time to practice. And sometimes I would even see, there was one child in my class who would have like a little snip on his granola bar, like a pre-cut little snip. So all he had to do was just open it like that. And I thought, that is genius. So just giving the kids these tools so that they can do all of these things by themselves. It may seem like a little thing, but when they are hungry and they have to wait for, several people have things that need help getting opened, it's just one of those things. We're just trying to prevent that frustration and those hangry moments. We all know what that's like. So these are just a couple little ideas. Just practice at home, or, cut a little snip in the granola bar so they can open it. But practicing is really, just like with their shoes, can be incredibly beneficial. And then it's just one less thing they have to worry about at school. Now, we're going to switch gears for my last hack. It is totally different. It has nothing to do with, independence or anything like that. It is all about reading. And I'm sure, you've heard a million times, the best thing you can do is read to your child. And it is true. But I am going to give you a little more of a focused idea of what you can be reading with your child, especially if you're wondering, or if you're just ready for some new books to read, and you're wondering, if you're just wondering about some ideas for that. So when I was in graduate school, I had this amazing phonics professor. Her name was Dr. Kitty Rose. She just passed away earlier this year. And she was the coolest woman. She wrote some of the Dick and Jane books. So she had been involved in this reading business for a long time. And one of her big tips, and I actually still have my notebook from her class that I refer to all the time. One of her big tips was to help increase phonological awareness, which is the number one, I believe, if not number one, it's one of the highest predictors of reading success. And phonological awareness is when you understand that there are sounds and that they go with letters, and that when you use these letters, they make sounds. And that's how those are the building blocks, the foundation of reading. So one of the ways you can build phonological awareness is reading ABC books. And she said, not just any ABC book, you want to read a good ABC book. So what makes a good ABC book? You flip through the Q, the X, the Z, those were her letters, that you flip to those letters. And I'm going to add the G as well, and see what they have for those letters. If it's an X-ray for X, come on. There are lots of other words that start with an X, or they have X integrated in them somehow. X-ray is like the easiest X you could ever have. Zebra for Z. There are some other ones that start with Z, although it's definitely the most common. So you look for those and you see like, oh, is this an unusual word for the Q or for the X or for the Z? Is it an unusual word for the V? Is it D for dog, or have they chosen a different D, a less obvious? Is it always elephant, for E or something like that? So you can flip through and look and find a good ABC book. Now, I also mentioned the G because oftentimes in animal ABC books, the G is going to be a giraffe, and giraffe makes the wrong sound. Giraffe sounds like a J. A goat would be a better G, but something that starts with a G instead of a J. So these books, we have read all of these this year. And I will say, although I have not had an official research study, and I think it would be a really interesting study to do about the effectiveness of ABC books. But I will say from experience, anecdotal evidence, 3 years in a row, that there is always a time of the year where I look at my assistant teacher and I say, it's time to get out the ABC books. We need to read them all. And it gets them so engaged and excited about these sounds. A is for salad, where the animal is I think it's the animal is the letter, but is doing something that is not associated with the letter. And so it will say A is for salad, but the alligator's eating the salad. So the A goes with the alligator, not the salad. And on every page, they just lose their minds. Thinks it's the craziest thing. Like, that's not true. That is not what A stands for. So that may be a little more of an advanced ABC book. But these are the sorts of things that you can do to really engage with your child. Plus, they're really fun. I was at Hooray for Books this past weekend and saw a new one that I had never seen before. And it had the word, I think it had the word unusual in the title. So it was something like, I should have written it down, unusual animals, ABC or something. And I immediately am flipping to that queue. I'm like, what is it? And I'm looking around. And anyway, it was a great book. Highly recommend it. But these are just really fun. And this is one of those things, if you're in a bookstore, you can always look for, a new ABC book or something like that. So now I said that was my last hack, but I have actually one more. And that is, and you probably know this already, but whatever you are excited about, they will be excited about. And if you want them to be excited about something, you just have to sell it. And you have to be subtle, whatever it is. And I want to tell you, because you've probably had this experience, especially if you have older kids, they get in the car after school and you ask them how their day was, and they give you a one-word answer, like, it was fine, or that's okay. And that's it. That's all you get. And you're like, oh, what did you do all day? I'm dying to know. I want you to know that they are talking about you all day long. Anytime something comes up in my class that is related an iota to something that is going on at home, we get, oh, my mom does that too, or my dad does that, or my grandmother, she's from this, all these sorts of things. So I want you to know that they are talking about you all day long. So thank you so much for listening to all of these things, and I hope, at least one of them was really useful for you. And I think as your family makes the transition to kindergarten, that hopefully you'll just keep these in the back of your mind. And I'm really excited for you all.